Finally happening. It's really happening, Ken.
Hey everybody, welcome back to a new episode of Response Roundtable. I'm Melody and I'm joined here today with Gila River Broadcasting Corp. So I'm going to go ahead and let them introduce themselves and I'll start with my left.
Okay. Hello, thanks for having us on the show. I am Yvonne Garcia, the production coordinator for Gila River Broadcasting Corporation. I am a tribal member of the Gila River Indian community, Akimat Oatam.
Thank you.
Shay Cordell Parker Unishia. This is Lenin Legal Hanakati Bashindo Nakaidina Dashay Do Sinajin Dashanale. My name is Cordell. I'm the media editor with the Gila River Broadcasting Corporation.
Hello, I'm Clarice Iago Jones, born and raised in the Gila River Indian community from District 6, and I am the executive director of GRBC.
Hey, hi guys. This is kind of just a fun fact, but I didn't know you were Navajo.
Oh.
But I would have probably started you out first because your intro, the intros are.
Sorry,
Yeah,
it's
no,
all right,
no. I love it. It was funny because one time we did like a session and it was all Navajos and the introductions were probably like 20 minutes. Anyway, it was fun. But I'm so excited to have you guys here today. You know, every time we do an episode of Response, we always start out with like a fun question, an icebreaker question. So the question is, what is your favorite wrestling, and use it in a sentence? Who wants to start?
I like to, when I ask my roommates to go I go get food and they tell me, but then they fall asleep or something comes up and they tell me no, I'm like cheap, it's cheap, bro. I think I picked it up in Gila River, honestly.
Yeah. Oh, you're cheap.
Cheap guy, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
He stole mine.
Did I? I'm sorry.
But that's okay. That's all right. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's just funny to call someone cheap. Like you and your friends all want to go somewhere, but there's that one friend who's like, no, I'm just gonna stay here, and you're like, he's being cheap, you know? How are you being cheap? But yeah, I don't know. It's just kind of a funny thing.
Yeah, that's
being
the
a cheap
one.
guy.
We use it on our wrist too. Yeah.
I would have to say mine is Bankaij. Bankaij, I told you, like I said, people don't listen, you don't listen. Said, Bankaij.
What we talk a lot about wrestling deriving from our language, like a lot of the language words we use. So that must be from your language. Is
Yes,
it? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you guys for sharing that. I love that part. It's my favorite part. But we're gonna jump right into the questions here. And so, I think I'm so happy that you guys are here, just because I remember when I worked at employment training, when this Gila River Broadcasting Corp was just getting off the ground, and I just thought how powerful is that for a community to have their own broadcasting corp. So that's why I really wanted you guys to come today. So I guess my very first question that I have is do you want to tell me more about Gila River Broadcasting Corp and the type of work that you guys do?
GRBC's been around since 2015. There was just a time, back then it was a time where it's what can we do? What can we do that we haven't done before? And Yvonne was there. So I asked her, what have you done before? And she kind of ran through some of the projects they did. And, I said, well, what haven't you done? And she kind of mentioned, other things like doing a show. And I did ask about live broadcasting. I said, have we ever done anything live? And she said no. And I said, but do we have the ability? And she said yes. So I said, let's figure this out. And since then, we've done a live broadcast, and that was the Hoop Championship, the Herd. We're very thankful to the Herd Museum for giving us that opportunity and believing in us. They came to us, and I looked at Yvonne and Cordell, and we're missing Elise, Marietta, who also works with us. I just kind of looked at them like, you think we can do it? Because you have to trust your team. And they looked at each other and they said, yeah, and we did. And so since then, GRBC has been doing a lot of things. We have we have at least 3 shows that we've produced with at least the first season wrapped up. So, I don't know.
Tell me about those shows.
Oh, they're pretty good. I think Yvonne can go into Downtime a little bit more. You guys started that out first, right?
Yeah, so Downtime was our first production, our very first production. There was a skeleton crew of about 4 or 5 of us sometimes. And it was just Rob and Claude Jackson interviewing people from around the community, people who are making changes, doing positive things for the community. And we would have a quick 15-minute interview with them. We would wrap up the show, a second 15 minutes with the artist, someone who plays music or who sang or who danced. And that was our very first season for Downtime.
What other shows? What are the other 2 shows?
So it was very well having all those people from the community or who work with the community, because that's what GRBC was meant for, to bring us together, to have that sense of comfort. We like to say familiar places and familiar faces on the TV. So, which led us to our next show, which was The Doings with Gok and Joe. Gok and Joe, they are very familiar in the community. They have a huge following. And I'll let Cordell speak to that. He worked with them a lot. I was always interested in working with them, but he finally helped get that ball rolling and lit the fire under them to be like, okay, yes, we're going to do it. So, go ahead.
Yeah, it was kind of like a mixed variety show. It was a talk show mixed with a skit series. So we had due to the pandemic, we only had about 5 episodes. We actually started in like October or December of the 2019, but we went into January and then things got weird after that. So we kind of had to stop, but it was a really great opportunity to show a different side of the more youthful side of the community. So they're more of a youthful representation of a lot of their peers. So, and then Gok, he's a comedian in the community. So, and then Joseph, he's more of like an outspoken, very kind of self-righteous person, but yeah. I dig it. So he's very like he's very elderish, kind of like, cracks me up. But no, they're both really cool people, and we got them on the show, and it was just awesome to have them as themselves, their personalities. And so we had several characters. So one that Gok developed was what was his name? It was Cedric. Cedric, yeah. It was this kind of like, he's kind of a washed up athlete on the community. He's a chair volleyball athlete. He went pro,
Yeah.
Went to the Olympics and everything, and he's just really eldered out. He's like, he still has like sunglasses on from like his practicing days and stuff, and his hair is all like white, and he's just kind of an older dude. So bit of a hermit because he lives off the community. So, and the community doesn't really accept him anymore because he took drug enhancement,
So he's changed.
Yeah, so performance enhanced drugs at the Olympics. So the community just like shunned him and kicked him out. So
Gummies are gummies, right?
Oh my gosh, that is crazy.
Yeah, so we're trying to dig into that character a little bit, and we just briefly scratched the surface with what the skit that we did.
Yeah.
And also with the Doings, it's just tried to put it separately on a podcast, so having a little bit more of an expansive episode on the podcast, but it's a little difficult to try and manage both the TV station, marketing, and then also doing the podcast. So that's something that we really are trying to look for with kind of our roles, is like, I'm more the person that handles a little bit of the social media stuff and more so editing and filming, and then Vaughn is more of the kind of the planning and putting together events, and she helps film also. But it's just like having somebody to get dedicated to social media is just like a whole other job.
Isn't it?
It's crazy.
It is.
Like, oh my God. Like,
I'll give you some tips after.
Okay, that'd be great. But I don't know, it's been going great ever since. The TV shows have been doing good. And then I don't know, we have another TV show. It's Chirihi News. It's something that Elise and Clarice have been really putting up together. So that's a collaboration with the police department. So did you want to talk about that? Or?
The host is the police chief, Chief Chavez. And he just kind of talks about a lot of the issues within the community. I think one of the first episodes was about the enforcement of the governor's mandate, the stay-at-home mandate, and just letting the community know how the police department was going to enforce it within the community. Because there was a lot of questions, can I go to the store? Can I go get gas?
Oh, yeah.
So really he just used that show to communicate a lot of things to the community, and it worked out really well.
Oh my gosh.
We're looking at a season 2. We're already doing season 2 for Downtime, and at some point we'll be planning season 2 for The Doings.
That is really cool. So I have like 2 thoughts. I always do this. So I have 2 thoughts, just like from you guys sharing all of the projects that you have, and I know there's more. I'm going to ask more about that, but I think the biggest thing that kind of struck out to me was like the control of the narrative, right? Like controlling your own perspective, your own narrative, what you want to share with your own community, I think is empowering. And that's kind of why we started this YouTube, was that we wanted people to see our perspective and our own experiences, but we're not speaking on behalf of all communities. We just want to share our perspective and how diverse we are. And so I think that's so cool with like the TV shows that you're creating. Like I could already relate just by the character you were talking about, because maybe every community has that character. But I think that was really powerful. And then again, it's like when you're talking about the news part of it too, I will say that I even heard about your guys' news station and how well you guys used that when you were addressing COVID, right? And it again adds that extra layer of communication, but also that connection too, right? So how can somebody see these TV shows, or how are they shown?
So in the beginning, GRBC started out with 3 transmitter sites, and then some changes were made to the FCC, and so we ended up with 1 transmitter site, and we are on channel 29.1, and we are available online as well at GRBC.TV, and that's on 24/7 every day, all day.
What? I've seen some things on Facebook. Was that another route, Facebook Live, or is that something different?
You can like our page, facebook.com/GilaRiverTV, and then also on Instagram at GilaRiverTV. And you just get notices of when we go live, or you can follow us and you'll get notifications of our events.
And typically if we're live on Facebook, we're also live on our station within the community.
Oh. So it gets transmitted right to the households in your community?
And all you need is rabbit ears, a high definition antenna, and there's no cost, no subscription. It's absolutely free over the air. For the internet, all you need is just access to the internet. So data rates may apply. But you can watch it on your cell phone, on your iPad, on your computer, any electronic device that has streaming capability.
Jeez Louise, I need to get her marketing skills. And so I'm obsessed with TikTok right now. But there was like this thing you said, rabbit ears. I can make my own rabbit ears. Thankful to TikTok. TikTok taught me how to make rabbit ears.
Well, nowadays, and we speak that because a lot of our audience is elders and the kind of older generation. So I guess nowadays we could say the flat antenna. The ones I've all seen are flat. You can just stick them to the wall now. You don't have to like put foil on the end anymore.
Yeah, I bet you your daughter doesn't know what rabbit ears are.
She does actually, because I have to get the channel at home, right? So she knows.
Okay.
She's helped me before trying to get it in. She's walking around my room, moving it around. She's so helpful.
Yeah, that's so cool. So, like, what are some of the things that kind of go into doing this type of work?
A lot of planning.
Definitely.
Yeah.
A lot of collaborations, a lot of meetings, a lot of planning, organizing, setting deadlines, following up, just making sure everything is in place for the pre-production, the actual production, the post-production, and that's just, making it happen as far as technical. I know Cordell can speak more to that.
I just was asking because most of our viewers are younger, right? So if I think about like, if they wanted to get into this type of work, what does that look like? But you did a really good job of like breaking it up, right? There's pre-production, there's all this stuff that goes in this, actual production, and there's actual post-production, and these are the things that you could look into. Cordell, do you want to speak to anything about that?
Yeah, it's more so just putting yourself out there and being confident to know that, you know, you can do a service that that you can realistically put together. So, and just really, like you said, breaking it down. When it comes to us planning a production, it's very key that we demonstrate to our client, like, hey, like, we want to know what you want to put out there. We want to know what exactly your message is, why you're doing this. It's not because we're trying to pry at what, you know, the client is doing. It's because we want to know what's the best way that we can deliver those messages and put those things out there for them. And, you know, with our live production with healthcare right now, we do a lot of outreach to the community that way right now, as opposed to what we have going on with like Downtime or the Doings. So we have another production called Gila River Now. It's more so kind of a bit of a newsy segment with the healthcare, but we're trying to branch out and collaborate with the Gila River Indian News, so the newspaper.
Oh, yeah.
But it's a little difficult. I mean, but it's not anything that's too hard where you have to really just even get a crew going. It's just a matter of like reaching out to people and just saying like, hey, like, let's do something and let's get out there and just do the work. And people will really admire, you know, things that are put out for the community. And it's really great to get the responses back too. Like, we hear a lot of good things from people, and we hear things from random people too. It's kind of funny. I went to a Taco Bell in Chandler, and there's a bit of a signal bleed that gets into Chandler and like Awatuki, and it was a Billigana guy that came through the drive-thru, or I was coming to the drive-thru, and he was serving me, and I was actually in the GRBC vehicle, and I was getting lunch, and he was like, "Oh, I watched GRBC," and I was like, "What? Like, no way!" Like Gila River Broadcasting. He's like, "Yeah, Gila River Broadcasting, like First Nations experience." Oh, what the heck? Like, and it was so weird because he's like, "Yeah, I'll put it on for my daughter in the mornings because we have morning animation shows and kids shows that stream from First Nations experience." And it was just funny to hear that because he was a non-native, and it's just very expansive the way that we could really put things out there. But with the live productions, it's on Facebook predominantly. We did recently do a production with Unity, so that was on YouTube. We have the variability to do a lot of different platforms also. It just depends on kind of the execution and their audience. So it's just, there's a lot of factors that go into everything, especially when we're planning where we want to shoot at, how many people are going to be on camera, what exactly they're going to talk about, if there's going to be any video playing during the broadcast, if they're going to want any graphics pulled up at the same time. It's just, it's different all the time.
Yeah.
And there's all these factors that just make it, there's no set template.
You have like several plans. Plan A, B, C, D, E, F, G, just in case something happens.
It's crazy. Like, it gets very complicated to a point, but sometimes it's just like, you know, you got to take a step back and just remember like, oh, I'm doing this for the people. That's what really kind of gets me going is, you know, I'm doing this for, you know, the people in the Gila River Indian community, and it's great. So, but yeah, it's like there's a lot of planning. It's so crazy. But like, we recently did a scholarship award ceremony that was last week. It went pretty well. There was a few hiccups there. There's always something small that kind of messes up.
It seems like our first production was so smooth, and you know, with the Herd Museum, and it just seemed like, this is how it's gonna be. But not since then.
It's not a matter of like equipment. It's just like there's a lot of stuff to remember.
Yeah.
And it's great when you have a lot of people working with you because they can remember all those small things. But you know, we're such a small team that I kind of have to remember like a lot of stuff. Mm-hmm. So there's one little thing I messed up on when we were doing it, and there was like an HDMI cable that was faulty, and I was like, oh shoot. And it was like the smallest thing that kind of messed us up. But
isn't that crazy?
yeah, so it's always a learning curve, and it's always just trying to think about what you can do better for the next production. But it's just like, you know, it's one after the other kind of at this point, which is great. It just takes a lot of kind of mental capacity to really think that, you know, this can get better. You just have to like really, really think about it. Like, honestly, I get like nightmares sometimes. Like, like last week I think I got 2 nightmares in the middle of the week because I was like, oh.
You sound like this guy over here.
And we're constantly learning from each production. There's always something new that, you know, I'm kind of like, oh, okay, well, this would be good if we do this. And it just, you know, helps us get better each and every time. So we're constantly learning from each of them. And, you know, it's just going to get bigger and better from here. So we look forward to each production.
That's exciting. It's funny that you say that because, I mean, hands down to y'all. I mean, I think we're on the same level. Like, we're behind the scenes kind of orchestrating things. But I can't imagine, like, I think about my buddy here behind the camera. And I'm just like, oh, my goodness. I just take for granted, I think, sometimes the amount of work that goes into it that you don't really think about how flexible you have to be and how, like, you have to manage your stress and be relaxed throughout the whole thing. And it's easy for me to say, like, it's all right, it'll be okay, relax, you know, but when you say having nightmares or stuff like that, I have nightmares too from the planning side where I'm like, oh, did I do this? Did I call that person? Did I email it? But yours is the actual production, so it might be a little more stressful.
One time
Did I press play? You know, like, did I record?
He was so stressed, and I think something was going on. And I was like, because I was watching the feed, and I texted him through our Microsoft Teams, and like, hey, Cordell, what's going on? He literally called me, and he's like, don't use Teams, and I was like, wait, okay. And so at the end of the production, he I think one of my daughters heard him because he was on speaker, and she said, you let them talk to you like that? And I was like, well, he's working. I know it's like he's busy doing other stuff. But afterwards he called and apologized. But I thought that was so funny.
Oh,
But yeah, you know, they're such a great team. Everybody works well together. With anything that's come up, I just trust them to, you know, work around issues. I try to remove as many roadblocks as possible, give them the tools that they need. But yeah, it's just, I think every time we're all surprised. It's like, oh, we pulled that off, and it's so cool. And, you know, we just move on to the next project and the next project.
After all the stress and you're done, like, okay, I survived that. What's next? You know, it's for the people.
That was for the people, right?
It's honestly like so relieving. Like, you're like, okay, I got through that. What else can we do? Like, it's kind of like a little inspiring, yeah.
But it kind of like, something wrong with me. Like, we just went through craziness, but I want to keep going, you know, because it's for the people. So it's so funny. I'm gonna give like a shout out to Brian Skeet, who's one of our partners. But we did one live event, and we haven't done one since. I was sharing that with you guys. I haven't done one since because it was so intense. But Brian was you, Cordell, and my buddy Unique was you, right? So she was kind of like running all over the set, and he's running like 20 machines. And after we were done, I was like, oh, that was so great. And I specifically texted Ryan. I was like, how you doing? You did so great today. I'm just so proud of you. And he sends me one GIF or whatever. And it's a cartoon, and it's a guy sitting inside of a burning house. And then on the top it says, I'm fine.
Oh, was it a dog? Was it a
Yeah. You know what
This
I'm
is
talking
fine,
about.
yeah.
I'm fine. It's all right. Yeah. But he sent me that one. I was just like, because that's how it felt. Like, it's like, oh, what's happening? It's not streaming. And people are texting me like something's not working. But it was pretty intense. Okay, so after like just hearing the stories and kind of all the work that goes into it, when it's said and done, you're all finished for the day, and what is like the most favorite thing about your job and why you do what you do?
Let's see, the favorite thing for me would be the actual outcome, the result. You know, people are able to see our work completed, and see it over and over and over again. You know, this can be, we create it, it's documented and archived, and now, you know, those who've seen it today as well as the future generations are able to recall back to it and see, you know, what was done, how it was made, how it looked, how it sounded, and they're able to hopefully pull something from that and make it better, you know, put more emphasis on something. But it's just being able to bring a smile to people, you know, to entertain them or to inform them of something, and just kind of create that bond with them to share that result.
Yes.
I'm always like kind of editing stuff and putting it together. So like one thing I always like to do is like I'll go home and like I have a house with like several other people that we rent, and I'll go in the big old entertainment center, and I have a big old TV with a sound system, and I'll just like play it on there, like like all cool, like I'll play the intro at least, and because I love like the splash pages that we have, and it's just like so basic, you know. I just like feel all cool. But
I think whatever, you know, when you see the finished product and it's been aired and it's been on Facebook and you see all the comments, you realize that whatever you put out there, it's really from home. You know, the jokes are ours, we get them. The language, if someone speaks in Otham or Peeposh, it's ours. And you wouldn't see that on any other station, but you see it on ours because that's what it belongs to. And so I think that's pretty cool, first and foremost. And then second is really seeing the growth of Cordell, Yvonne, Elise. They've come such a long way. And, you know, I think this is just the beginning. I see it as just the beginning. These are going to be our humble beginnings that we're going to look back on in maybe as soon as 5-10 years, you know, and think, oh yeah, it was only a 3-person crew, and, you know, but look where we're at now. Because we are looking at expanding. We're looking at adding 2 additional staff. We're currently renovating a small building, but a building to, you know, house us in a small studio. So I just see us growing.
Oh, that made me excited.
It is exciting.
Yeah, and I think about, again, why we called you guys on the show. I think being able to have your own broadcasting corporation is huge. Born and raised here in Arizona, and I mean, it's the first that I've ever seen that's now more accessible, right? Because we have social media and you know, stuff like that. So I also feel like representation matters, and controlling that narrative again, and amplifying what you want to amplify for your community is powerful. You're cultivating generations beyond, and the work you're doing is needed. And I'm so excited to see what's in store for you guys. I'm going to follow the journey. It's you guys really inspire us and what we do here on our YouTube channel too. So thank you for joining us. Thank you for being a guest, and keep doing the good work, the amazing work you're all doing.
Thank you. It was a pleasure to be here.
yeah, thank you.